All right.
All right. We have 1 more minute to go, by the way, but maybe I'll just.
Okay, Radhe Radhe. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good evening. Thank you, Pranaji, for a beautiful session. Radhe Radhe. Good morning, good evening to all of you. A very warm welcome. Hope you had a great weekend and having a wonderful start to your new week.
And we also had an amazing weekend with Swamiji here.
Yeah, we had an amazing weekend because Swamiji is here. He started his US tour and he started with Dallas. So we got the extreme fortune of having his association over the weekend, and it was really well spent. I must say that. And there are so many things to look forward to now as well. All right, it's 9 o'clock. So Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening, everyone. Let's get started with our session. I'm going to share my screen so that you can see it, and then, okay, if somebody needs to give me access so that I can make me co-host so that I can share screen. Thank you. All right, so let me share my screen now. Are you able to see it?
Yes.
Great. All right, so let's get started like we always do by invoking the blessings of God and Guru. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanurmardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. All right. So Radha Radhe, good morning, good evening to all of you. Very warm welcome to our this week's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. So let's get started. We're trying to make sense of our senses. And then we spoke about desire, and today we'll continue on that journey and see the analogies Lord Krishna is presenting, and they're beautiful analogies as we will dissect these and try to understand how he's beautifully trying to explain the concept. And then it's a reflective exercise for each one of us to know which category do we fall in. So let's get started. I'm going to recite it. You're welcome to follow along. Dhumena vahnir yatha darsho malena cha yathol garbha tatha tenedamavritam. All right.
SSPG, Surya Prakash ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Good morning.
Ji,
Good morning, sir. Nitin, sir.
Good morning.
Dhumenavriyate mahiniryathat darsho malecha yathur albenavruto garbhastatati nidamavrutam. It was difficult little.
No worries. Well tried. Okay, let's take a few more hands.
Sunita ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, everybody.
Radhe Radhe.
Dume navriyate vaina yatha darso malena cha yato blenavruto garbha tatha tena damavrutam.
Very nice, Ji. Radhe Radhe. Okay, let's take the remaining hands.
Aparna ji, Radhe Radhe.
I see last.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Aparna ji.
Dhume navriyate vanir yatha darsho malena cha yatol बेनावृतो गर्भः तथा तेनेदमावृतम्.
Wonderful, very nice. Aparna ji, Radhe Radhe.
I encourage all of you to consider turning on your videos. I'm taking those first who have their videos on.
Yes, please.
Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, sir.
Domenavate Vahni Yathodarsho Malena Chan Yathol Benavito Galbas Tata Tenedam Avritam. Radhe
Very
Radhe.
nice, Sam ji, Radhe Radhe.
Induji, Radhe Radhe,
Radhe Radhe, Indu ji.
please go
Radhe
ahead.
Radhe everybody.
Radhe Radhe.
Dhumena vrete vahinar yatha darsho. No, sorry. Dhumena vrete vahinar yatha darsho malena cha yathol vena vrato garv tatha tene damavritam.
Very nice,
Radhe.
Indu ji. Thank you for turning on your video. Radhe Radhe. Vandana ji.
Vandana ji, Radhe Radhe. You will have to unmute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
धूमेनाव्रियते वह्निः यथादर्शो मलेन च यथोल्बेनावृतो गर्भः तथा तेनेदमावृतम्. Thank you.
Wonderful, very nice, Vandana ji. Okay, we can take the remaining hands too.
Payal ji also turned on her video. Very nice. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Payal ji.
राधे राधे धूमेनाव्रियते वह्निर्यथादर्शो मलेन च बेनावर्तो गर्भस्तथा तेनेदमावृतम्. राधे
Wonderful,
राधे.
very nice. Thank you, Payal ji. Thank you for turning on your video.
Shri Ramya ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Shri Ramya ji.
राधे राधे धूमेनाव्रियते वह्निर् यथादर्शो मलेन च यत्तो बेनावृतो गर्भास् तथा तेनेदमावृतम्. Thank
Very
you.
nice, Shri Ramya. Radhe Radhe.
Riya ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Riya
Radhe
ji.
Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
धूमेनाव्रियते वह्निः यथादर्शो मलेन च यथोल्बेनावृतो गर्भस्तथा तेनेदमावृतम्.
Very nice, Shri ji. It's Garbha and then Tatha Tenedam Avritam. Thank you. All right, last but not the least, Sandhya, go ahead.
Thank you. धूमेनाव्रियते वह्निर् यथादर्शो मलिन च यथोल्बेनावृतो गर्भः तथा तेनेदमावृतम्.
Wonderful. Very nice, Sandhya. All right, so let's get started on this shloka. In this shloka, Lord Krishna is giving some beautiful analogies, like throughout Bhagavad Gita he does. And we'll see, we'll put it in context and try to go deeper into this topic today. So what he's saying is, just as a fire is covered by smoke, a mirror is masked by dust, and an embryo is concealed by the womb. Similarly, one's knowledge gets shrouded by desire. Now he's given 3 examples around it, right? What is the commonality, right? That's what we're going to look at it. There's a similarity and yet there is a difference. So let's get started. So today we are going to talk about this very topic. What do a fire, mirror and embryo they've gotten in common is what we are going to talk about. So this is going to be a topic of our discussion today. So you can fasten your seatbelts and get ready for the ride today. Let's get started. So before we get started, what are we seeing here? Okay. Yeah. So I came across this beautiful quotation today. I loved it, so I thought I'll bring it to the session. Dash is the ultimate sophistication. Anybody who wants to take this? What is the ultimate sophistication? All right, maybe you can give it a blind shot. Yes, Sandhya, you wanted to?
Blind guess only. I was thinking simplicity, but
Anybody else? All right, so yeah. Yes, Samji. Go ahead, Samji.
yes,
The
Sam.
I think it's the continuity of anything. Life is changing. Change is the ultimate, something like that, I guess.
Okay, Rahul, go
Now
ahead.
he also wants to say Radhe Radhe.
Common sense.
Common sense, yes. Eventually, it should be something which um, should lead to common sense only. Yeah, Preeti ji, you wanted to say something as well?
Yes, Preeti ji.
I feel like this might be a mirror, like reflection in the water, or mirror of the mountains in the water.
Okay, no, I mean picture. I just like the picture, so I said that. So
There
yeah,
are 4 answers. Can I read them in the chat?
sure, sure.
Swati ji says humbleness, Ganpriya ji says nature, and Shruti ji says calmness. Manish ji says progression.
Very nice. Yes, Payal ji, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was also about to say the same. Humility is the ultimate sophistication.
Sophistication. You're right, actually. They are all kind of interrelated concept, but this quotation as such, it is simplification is the ultimate sophistication. Okay. It's very beautiful, very profound quotation I found, because when you can simplify something, that is the real understanding. Sophistication is actually knowing about something inside out, right? That is the real sophistication. And if it can be simplified, then that is the true sophistication. And what I like about Maharajji's discourses and the way Swamiji has written his commentaries has simplified it. No second guessing, just hits the point, no beating about the bush, get the concept. Okay. And that concept would be presented in a manner that it is irrefutable logic. Like Rahul said, common sense. Common sense, you will say, yeah, it was so simple. How nice that concept is. I always used to think Bhagavad Gita is so difficult to understand. So simplification is the ultimate sophistication. If, like Einstein had also said, that if you cannot explain it simply enough, you have not understood it well enough. So simplification is the ultimate sophistication. Ironical, one seems like very complicated, other seems like too easy. But when you can make it simplified to an extent that everybody can understand it, that is the real understanding. So that is what Swamiji has done beautifully, so much beautifully in his commentary. And if you take it to the next level, all the esoteric concepts related to our scriptures are presented in such a beautiful, simplified manner by Maharaji that it is unbelievable. When we pick up some of the topics around, God, whether God has what different forms of God, Brahma, Jeev, Maya, Nirakar versus Sakar, all that is explained so beautifully that you don't have to second guess, okay, somebody has said it, so you have to believe it. No, it's very logically presented, and then your common sense will tell you, yeah, it kind of makes sense. So, back with that, let's get started with our today's discussion, okay? On that note, simplification is the ultimate sophistication, and the whole idea is to present the concepts in a simplified manner until they just became our, like the palm back of our hand. Okay, at least conceptually. Practically, of course, is a big journey. The biggest divide is called between knowing and doing. But at least from a knowing standpoint, 50% of the journey can be aced if we have understood the concept really well. Okay, and that when it means really well means no second guessing. It has been presented in a manner that makes logical sense, and your common sense will make you believe that this actually makes sense. And then your faith can of course take another leap altogether. So simplification is the ultimate sophistication. With that, let's get started with today's topic. So what is discrimination? Discrimination means knowledge of what is right and what is wrong. Only when you can discriminate, you can say this is right, this is wrong. Otherwise, everything is same, right? In order for you to discriminate, there has to be backed with some kind of a knowledge and some kind of a decision making as well. And what discriminates? What is that thing that gives humans ability to discriminate? Yes, that is called, what does the discrimination? It is intellect. Intellect, which is also in Hindi called buddhi. Buddhi is intellect. And Lord Krishna has explained buddhi yoga, science of work as well. How do you use this buddhi that God has given us to humans to discriminate, develop that faculty of discrimination? Because if we don't have the faculty of discrimination, we don't use our intellect, then there is no difference between humans and animals at that point. So discrimination is a great asset humans have, and have been endowed with intellect to exercise this great power that God has given us. With that said, we had, does it remind you of any other shloka? Like it says, desire clouds the discriminatory ability of the intellect. There's something else also which clouds the discriminatory ability of our intellect. It clouds our judgment. Does anybody remember that shloka? We had done it and we have spent a good amount of time on that. Something else can form a cloud over your judgment. What is that? Does anybody remember it? Come on, somebody can do that. Yes, Samji?
I think that that comes to that one. Dhyayate Vishyani Puns.
No, Dhyayate Vishyan Punsa is right.
Yeah.
But there's a very specific shloka which talks about clouding of your intellect and your judgment. Let's hear. I see a couple of other hands as well. See, we will do the runtime test also now.
Shri
Yes,
Ramya ji says anger, calm ish, krodh ish.
true. Yes, Pallavi ji, you wanted to add something?
Yes, Pallavi ji, Radhe Radhe.
क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहात् सम्मोहात् स्मृति विभ्रमः. This is 263, I believe.
2.63, very nice. And one prior to that was 2.62, which Samji talked about. Dhyayato Vishyan Punsa Sangaste Shupajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kamat Krodho Vijayate. And then in 2.63, you rightly pointed out, it says Kamat Krodho Kamat, what was Kamat Krodho Vijayate? It was, what was that?
क्रोधात् भवति
Krodhat bhavati sammoha sammohat smriti vibhrama smriti bhranchad buddhinasho buddhinashat pranashyati. So the krodh or the anger is another thing which can cloud our judgment. And desire is brother from another mother, right? Right? It's in fact actually the mother of desire, leads to greed and anger both. So desire is actually the mother of krodh also. So this also clouds the discriminatory ability of the intellect. So these are our senses. And when it gets a sense objects, desire comes dhyato vishyan punsa. When senses come in contact with the sense objects, then it gets engaged in it, right? That desire comes out. So with that desire, what happens is there's a cloud. Okay, these days cloud has become very famous, Azure, AWS, and GCP. But this is a different cloud that we are talking about. Its cloud cover is basically a covering that it's like a haze that is formed over it, which disables it to see clearly or to think clearly. Similar to anger, desire works like that. Have you seen that extra scoop of ice cream when you go for? Your mind just shuts down. It's like you have to go for it. Other day I had jalebi, my mind had shut down. Okay. So this is how it goes. Desires go. It just shuts down and you simply go with the flow. Discrimination ability can wait at that point. So beautifully Lord Krishna is explaining in this one, right? So there's a cover that it forms as soon as the desire comes. Now that intensity could vary. Intensity could vary depending upon what station of life or what station of spiritual trajectory we are on. And that is where we're going to have our discussion today. Okay. So discovering is but lust under different manifestations. Now, you hope you can tie back the threads here. This desire is nothing but a perverted reflection, right? Of, we have shown that a divine love, it manifests in form of lust, and desire comes out of that. So going back, we have spoken about this cloud cover. This cloud cover is similar to the cloud cover that possesses us during anger. And it is no different. See, the manifestation actually is both. In anger, you are venting out, right? You are still getting dopamine kick. In this case, you are not venting out, but still your intellect is clouded. In both cases, our intellect gets clouded. Your judgment takes a back seat and you go with the flow. In this case also, you are getting some kicks, right? By indulging in the sense object that is of specific interest to you at that moment, and the same phenomena is unfolding, manifesting basically, where clouding of judgment is the common factor in both the cases. Now, this is lust under different manifestations. Now, this is where we start. The first one is smoke on a fire. This fire is the source of light, we know that. Right? It's symbolic of light, and light is symbolic of knowledge, which removes ignorance. Now, it gets covered by smoke. That haze is a very thin layer. And in physics, you would have read those are 3 layers, luminous zone, and a couple of other layers as well. So this smoke is a layer. This partial obscuring is like the thin cloud that sattvic desires create. Now, Lord Krishna has given us 3 examples how it manifests. First one is the smoke on the fire, which is a sattvic desire. Okay, because it's a thin layer. The second one is like on a mirror, you see there's a dust on the mirror. It is reflective. Mirror is naturally reflective, but it gets obscured by dust. And that, it becomes semi-opaque, not completely opaque. So there is transparent, there is translucent, and there is something called opaque. Now, in this case, it becomes semi-opaque, and it's like masking impact of the rajasic desires of the intellect. Now, from sattvic to rajasic, it is intensified a little bit more. And the third one is an embryo, right, in the womb. What happens there? An embryo gets concealed in the womb. This complete obfuscation is like the consequence of tamasic desires. Okay, that is the analogy that is being given here. Subverting the power of discrimination. Okay, you lose discrimination completely. Let's go a little deeper so that these analogies make sense. So, if we look at, let's start with the tamasic first. I think that's what it was. Yeah. So this is called the mode of ignorance. We know, right? Maya, everything has 3 modes: rajasic, tamasic, and sattvic. So let's start with this one. This mode of ignorance is the most darkness you can have. So if you look at it from a spiritual life, the entity is most covered from and further away from spiritual life. Desires in this case are so intense that they drive those people towards any amount of sin also they can do to justify those desires. No amount of cruelty or bad deed seems too bad to this person if it comes in the way of satisfying the desire. So there are people you would come across in life, when they have a desire, they can go to any extent to fulfill that desire. Okay, no matter what may come their way, they will go for it. Okay, even if it means committing a sin. Okay, so this is called a tamasic desire. And then these people, spiritual life is one as part of it, but then they are opposed to spiritual life. And even people with spiritual qualities, they'll condemn them, and they will simply discard anything related to spirituality. You would come across people like that. Okay. It is a trajectory, and like I initially said, that depending upon the station of life we are in and the spiritual trajectory we are on, it's an evolutionary process. And the good thing is we are all here, right? So that means at least we acknowledge divinity and we have a spiritual thirst, which is a good thing. But then different people are in different stages of their trajectory as well, right? And it's quite possible, we were in that phase not too long back in any of our past lifetimes, right? Buddha Once Buddha, there was a guy who came to Buddha and he started abusing him, hurling all kind of choicest of abuses to Buddha. And Buddha was quite, when he was tired, Buddha said, give him food and water so that he can start again. And then he was given food and water, he started again. Okay, he got energy, right? Energy now, depending upon how you want to use it. And then after that, he got tired again and he asked Buddha, what kind of a person are you? Are you made up of stone or wood? Nothing happens to you. So he said, when you give this choicest of abuses, which is like a gift you are passing on to me, and I don't take it, with whom does it remain? Said it remains with me. Somebody gives you a gift, you don't accept it, it remains with you. And then this guy asked, what makes you the way you are? He asked Buddha. And Buddha said, 50 lifetimes back, I was also like you. So the point here is, this is an evolution. So people could be in a mode of ignorance. That doesn't give us a right to feel an air of superiority around it, but we look at it at compassion. But it is possible. And you would come across those people who would detest anything related to spirituality. They'll condemn you, abuse you, even belittle you, and they have nothing to do with spirituality. Okay, so this is tamasic, or the mode of ignorance. Better than that is this rajasic mode. In this mode of passion, the spiritual nature is covered more than the sattvic, of course. But just like under dust, mirror reflection is hard to see. These people are also busy in the mode of passion to collect more and more things. In fact, majority of the world is in this mode. Okay, they want to get more and more and more of the material things. It could be clothes, it could be gifts, it could be opulences, it could be fame, money, power, prestige, could be anything. They want more and more of it. And this is where majority of the people fall into, right? Tamasic is more like a minority. Rajasic is also, no, this Sattvic is also, I'll get into that. But this is where bulk of the world operates in. Day and night, they are busy with working towards satisfying their senses and ambitions. God is also becomes a means to satisfy their ambitions. They approach God with the understanding that if they go to God, good things will happen. Their secret wishes will come true. Secret wishes like finding that perfect match, finding that perfect job, finding that perfect relationship, So God, it is world via God. Okay, so God is still not a priority. However, they are not opposed to spiritual life. They said, yeah, spirituality, we are puja parthi, we are religious. So they're not opposed to it, because that covering is not as intense as an embryo, which is complete darkness. They're not opposed to it, but at the same time, their ambition is world and God is just a means for them. Okay. But the good thing is they're not opposed to spiritual life, and you never know. Somebody may latch on to that spark and take it to another level altogether, right? That possibility is always on with people who are in Rajasic mode. As long as they have an open mind, they have thirst, past sanskars, anybody can take their life to any trajectory, right? From Rajasic, immediately they can get into Gunatit mode. A lot of people have had, right? The monk who sold their Ferrari, and so many people, so many things we see, people who are neck deep into material world, all of a sudden something happened and they developed complete dispassion and detachment towards it and move, at a very fast pace on the path of spirituality. Om Swami's more recent example that I know, right? That I've heard about. And then, of course, there are a lot of stories that you would come across as well. All right. And then the third one is the smoke on fire, which is called the sattvic mode or goodness. Now, in this way, the living entity acts in the mode of goodness. So what happens is their spiritual nature is now slightly visible, because that haze or the layer of smoke on the fire is not very prominent, right? So that nature is visible. They act in righteous manner. You will come across people who are very righteous, who have very noblest of intentions. They want to serve people, serve humanity, and they have uplifting, noble thoughts, and they want to do something good. So those kind of people are also there. So, but fraction, if we have in relative sense, they are less than, of course, the Rajasic people, but there are people around that, and you would come across such people as well. The key here is that they are stuck to their dharma, duties as a human, child, husband, philanthropist. They have inclination for practicing some devotion to the Lord as well, some devotion to the Lord, but they are much hung up in the worldly things. doing good and helping and all that stuff. So sattvic is that mode where you are in the mode of goodness, but then you're attached to that goodness as well, because silently you're patting your back that I'm doing something great. You cannot get rid of that, that what you call that pride that you are, subconsciously building, because God is still not in the equation. So sattvic, again, it's better than rajasic, but still binding. We have spoken about this concept as well, right? At best, it will take you to um, uh, celestial abodes and may make you king of celestial abodes as well. So all those possibilities, it opens up. You may become a Gandharva or whatever. At least you will not be born poor in next life and you'll have a better life. All those possibilities open up, but it is still far away from God realization, because you are still not brought God into the mix. Okay, you are still doing it for your own sake, and you are still doing it because with an attachment to the things that you are doing. You want to control the results, and you want to believe that you are the doer. Not believe, but you are actually thinking you are the doer in that case. So it is still not non-binding. It is still not taking us closer to purifying, so to say. So it's still a color of Maya. Sattva is also a color of Maya, and it is still binding. And that is why one of the key takeaways from Bhagavad Gita is being good is good, but not good enough. Okay. And goodness is the next best thing to godly consciousness. Good consciousness, building a good consciousness around doing noble things is next best thing to building a godly consciousness. So people who don't want to believe in God, at least try to become good. Okay, that is the message. But attaching your mind to God and doing things for the pleasure of God, understanding that He's the one who's enabling you to do whatever you can do. He's the one who's bestowed you with the gift of skills that we have in this life. Having that at the back of the mind is what is gunatit. So these are the three modes in which our lust or our desire can manifest. Okay, and that lust and desire could be sattvic also, right? Which is kind of interesting. People are attached to their dharma also. Yudhishthira also attached to his dharma, for that matter. People are attached to doing good and doing good in their own way. So sattvic desires can also manifest. Let's go a little more deeper into this. So we spoke about this concept of embryo. Now, it is actually similar to something like trees. You see trees? Now, the comparison of embryo being covered by the womb is an analogy illustrating the most awkward position for the child in the womb is so helpless and it cannot even move. See, we have all forgotten. We have been basically housed in this accommodation in every lifetime. Okay, different mothers' wombs, and it is kind of a miserable existence. You can't move out and all that stuff. We forget it. And it is said at that time, the soul makes a lot of promises to God. You know what? Please get me out of this darkness. And this time, you know what? I am going to complete my journey. I will do whatever is needed and complete my journey. And then when we come out, we say, game on. We forget everything. Okay. And that keeps on repeating lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Okay. Again, the Maya colors, they become so heavy on us that we start, thinking of life as an ice cream and forgetting that life is truly like a candle. Okay. Like Swamiji explains. So this is not a very comfortable position, by the way. Good thing is we forget and we'll keep forgetting. So this stage of living condition can be compared to the trees. Now think of trees. It's a very dicey situation, right? If you become a tree, I mean, we have become a tree. Again, we have forgotten. So being a tree is kind of an interesting existence, right? It's doing a lot of good thing for the ecosystem and all. But think of it as a species which anybody can become. They are also living entities. They have been put in such an awkward position. They are standing up in a position for thousands of years. They cannot move. If somebody is cutting, they cannot even protest. And you need people like Sundarlal Bahuguna with Chimko Andolan to save them. And they have been put into such conditional life. If somebody is coming to do some harm, they can't even go away. Okay, so these are kind of situation which is even embryo is kind of in that situation. It's like pretty much but Brahmaji has made this such a beautiful system that embryo doesn't have to do anything. Mother just has to eat food and everything is supplied for, to the baby and taken care of very nicely. Yes, Monica, you had a question?
Radhe Radhe everybody, Radhe Radhe Nitinji. So Nitinji, even the blade of grass is a soul, right? They have their own souls, right? So that means we have so many ignorant people that are actually going through, because mountains have grass and blade of grass is like how many, right? So many.
4 lakh, we have na 84 lakh, 8.4 million. Brahmaji is a master creator, right? He has so many variety he's created. So when he sleeps, every one kalpa, night when it happens, we know the calculation. I'm not going to get into that again. And then he wakes up and he starts making all the species, the toys again. And he has created so much of variety. The other day I was at the zoo, I was thinking, oh my God, we have been through all this, processes, all species. It could be a miserable existence. So those species are there. And then that is why human birth is considered kind of hitting a jackpot. And if we fritter it away, then it's a big loss. So everything, I mean, trees, they say, right? I mean, if you keep complaining about, I don't have time, I don't have time, who knows, you may become a tree and you'll have all the time.
Yeah.
Thousands of years, no agenda whatsoever in life, right? Just keep standing. So we got to be very careful about putting our human life to good use, because in no other species you hit that jackpot. And there is no guarantee that we'll come back as human in back-to-back lives. So it's kind of an opportunity 24 hours every day, which has to be put to good use. I mean, if you think about deeply about it, it's actually every moment something is getting snatched away, which is not going to come back again, right? So it's pretty. Right? People celebrate their milestone birthdays. It's like somebody has given you 100K, not even 100K these days, maybe 80K, and 30K, 40K, 50K is taken away from their account and they keep on celebrating. I mean, think of it in perspective. Life is passing by. It's an opportunity which is going away. But that is a mindset that is needed, essentially what our scriptures are telling us. So, all right, we'll come to more questions. So let's move on. Now, covered mirror is better in the sense that it is rajasic desires that we are talking about, right? So in that sense, covered mirror is better than, so if it is compared to birds, and so the embryo I said to trees, this one could be compared to birds and beasts. Birds and beasts, they can move, they can protect themselves from somebody who's coming to harm. But they still have no knowledge, a little better than trees, but still helpless to a certain extent. Same thing is the Rajasic. You are better than Tamasic, but you are susceptible to the desires and the lusts and the traps of it. Okay, but slightly better. At least you have some kind of an opening towards spirituality. So many people you see, right? I've seen so many friends who have been busy in their day-to-day mundane life, and then something clicks and they start picking up spirituality one step at a time, and before you realize, in a matter of few years, their life has completely changed. But they were completely in the Rajasic life. I won't say that they are in Tamasic life where all they are doing is frittering away their life, intoxication and stuff like that, or hurting others. Normal people leading regular lives, right? 9 to 5 job I have to do. I have to take care of my family. I have to be nice with my friends, and then I have to do potlucks with my friends, right? That's simple life, very simple life. Take care of my parents, meet my friends, do party from time to time because we need to unwind. So that is a typical Rajasic life. But within that Rajasic life, there is an opening. You never know. Somebody, it may click to somebody because of whatever reason. Right? Lord Krishna has also said, Chaturvidha bhajante mam jigyaso artu arti jnani cha bharatarshabha. Basically, in that mundane life, there could be any trigger. It could be some disappointment from your material, some sense of dissatisfaction that can come up because of God's mercy. It could be, mostly people, they come because some kind of tragedy strikes their life, right? Then they think, okay, God is the only solace. Some come because they have some kind of a material desire. They think when they get into the path of spirituality, Babaji or Swamiji will come, bless them, put their hand on their head, and life is going to be a cakewalk from there on, right? So most of the people, they come like that as well. And some are genuinely seeking, bigger questions to life. They may not be Buddha, but at least they're seeking those questions. Okay, why am I here? What am I doing? Is my purpose of life just to pay EMIs and roam around and then finally retire and move on in life? So some people come through that inquisition as well. But most of those people, they come through Sattvic or Rajasic. Tamasic is completely shut. For them, it's like, no way, I don't want to talk about it. Who cares? We have enough time, things to take care of in our life, kind of a deal. So this is like that. So smoke-covered fire, if we talk about it, it's compared to a human being. When fire is covered by smoke, you fan a little over it, right? It's just a matter of that before you can again get this fire back. So it is the most conducive situation for somebody to sprout that spirituality or manifest that spirituality in them. So human life is that. Human life is compared to a smoke of fire where we have that opportunity. If we can handle it well, if we actually acknowledge that knock that happens in all of our life. See, this is not the first time. You would know that even as kids or at different stages of our life, there is some knock happens which tells us, okay, well, there is some superpower or divinity or some higher principles that might be at operation, and then we basically subdue it with our worldly consciousness. So this is an opportunity that comes. And even if you look at aboriginal people, there is a inherent what do you call that, understanding that we have around this principle, right? If you look at some of the Greek and all, they used to pay respect to seas, thunderbolt, big mountain, and something bigger than them. They would bow down, nature I namaha, or they would worship prakriti. And there is some consciousness around that there is a superior or a divine force which is orchestrating all of this. So that is a very natural to human beings more often than not. If we are in a tamasic mood, then we may cover it or subdue it. But other than that, people more often than not, there is some calling from within. Everybody has in some form or manner. So just like the fire covered with smoke, now you can fan it. If you try to eradicate the smoke, the fire will come out. So human life is an opportunity like a fire covered by a thin smoke where we can start removing the smoke, and then the fire will come out in its full glory. So these are the three analogies Lord Krishna is giving. Now here you have Mridu. There are three categories of this lust, degrees of lust. Mridu is mild. Persons whose knowledge is covered by a mild degree of lust, sattvic mode, they can accept instructions of Atma Tattva, knowledge of the self to a certain extent. From Madhya, slightly, I mean, it is difficult for them, but they are deeply in worldly consciousness, but there is a possibility for them. They can understand a little bit knowledge of the self. And people who are completely into it, intense, tivra, then that, they are covered by an intense degree of lust, knowledge of the self is not perceived at all. You tell them knowledge, you ask them, what is a soul? And they will say, what kind of a philosophy are you telling up? Go away. Not even an iota of knowledge will sink into them. That can happen too. And you'll come across all the three categories. Some will be receptive to it. They may think, and then they'll say, you know what, who's going to think about this complicated? Let's leave it. Somebody will say, no, forget it. It's all the speculation of your mind. And third one will be going a step further. They start exploring it as well. So depending upon our tendencies, it could be mild influence, mridu, madhya, or tivra. There's three degrees of coverings that we have of lust or desire based on our past sanskars. And based on that, your affinity, proclivity, tendency, attraction would be proportional towards the spiritual concepts. Okay, let's talk about a story now. Okay, enough of philosophy. Let's talk about a story. So I've told this story before, but it's a good time to bring it. So this is a guy who's walking through a jungle, very, very treacherous jungle. I think you would have heard it from me, but I'll bring it again because it's an important thing to understand how powerful this thing. And then this guy, there's a witch, comes across a witch from one side. Okay, it's a witch, it's not a ghost, by the way. And witch says, come and embrace me. It's like, okay, come, I was waiting for you to embrace. With both the open arms. And then he's of course freaked out and he turns in another direction, and some ferocious animals, they start chasing him as well in this jungle. Just look at the predicament of this guy. Dark, pitch dark in the night, a witch on one side and animals on another side. And then he goes and runs, and what happens? Upside down like a Tarzan, you see some ropes, and before he realizes he's upside down, hanging upside down on a tree. And when he's hanging upside down a tree, it gets even more interesting. There's a snake who's waiting for him down below, okay, close to his mouth. And as if that was not enough, you see there are two rats who start, white and black. They appear from nowhere and start nibbling that branch through which he's hanging on to delicately. Okay. It's a pretty exciting situation to be in. And in the middle of this, some honeybees start stinging him as well. And he's enjoying the honey that is falling on his face from the cobweb. Now, if you think of this guy, what do you think about this guy? Now, if you have not heard this story, I can tell you that, but we'll get into that. So in this kind of a situation, this guy is actually enjoying some honey. Now, if real life, if you come across this, what would you tell? What kind of a guy is Shyamji here? Oh, he's not here. Good. What do you think of this guy? Anybody who's hearing the story for the first time want to take a shot at it? Yes, Preeti ji.
Yes, Preeti ji. Radhe Radhe.
So, yeah, that guides us. Actually, we are in the jungle of life, and the day and night is the mouse. And our life is going to be over pretty soon, and each picture is a symbol, but we are just enjoying honeys like material pleasures, our life is slipping by, like day and night is going like black and white mice, and instead everywhere there is so much fear and danger, and we are enjoying little materialistic thing as if it's a honey.
True. Very true, Preeti ji. So let me get step by step into each one of these, what it means, so that we can factually understand what's going on here. Yes, Bhootji, shall I? Okay, I think we can give respect to Bhoot as well. So Bhootji.
Radhe Radhe Bhootji.
Radhe Radhe.
No
I think the
surprise.
person is I think the person is having a very good time.
He's having a very good time, yeah.
Yes.
Very good time.
In the midst of all that vicious situation, he is really tasting honey, finding bliss in honey.
Yeah. Height of optimism, right? Very true.
Yes.
Great. So let's look at this whole situation, put it in perspective here. I think we have driven home the point here, but let's look at it in perspective. Now, this treacherous jungle that we're talking about is basically journey of life. Journey of life, because it's a very it's a bit of a treacherous place to be in. Not to suggest that we become paranoid around it, but think of it in perspective, right? I mean, you walk out and something can come over. Then COVID if everything is going, when COVID would come over, somewhere tornado is coming over, when we see some war is going over. So every moment of life actually presents some kind of a challenge. Okay. Still, of course, it's not like everything is catastrophic around us, but it is a journey where we got to be very careful. Anything can happen to anybody at any time. Nobody is immune from that. Adi Devik, Adi Bhautik, and Adhyatmik, these three, Tridosh, Tritap, Panchaklesh, all these things in material life we have to deal with. So it is considered by in our scriptures as a journey going through a very treacherous forest. That too, which can pose a risk, threat, or a danger at every step. So that is one. So this guy is going through that. It's a material world where we live, where there is a danger at every step. Then on the other hand, you have a witch. It represents an old age that is waiting to embrace us with the passage of time. Old age, right? They say there's a saying, Jo जाकर ना आए वो जवानी, जो आकर ना जाए वो बुढ़ापा, right? So it's saying, come over, and we try to keep beating it. So cat and mouse game is going on, but just a matter of time, right? So this is old age, where the witch is willing to embrace us every passing day. Janak, not King Janak, King Dashrath, he saw one of his white hair, and it gave him a little, immediate realization that, I'm not going to live forever, and I need to do something about Ayodhya and find its rightful heir. So that realization came to him. And, so that is the level, basically, some people can understand it. To Buddha, when he saw something. So point here is old age is waiting for us every moment. Then this animals, they represent diseases which appear in life and continue harassing us until death. Now, we don't have a formula to beat diseases. We can improve our longevity by doing pranayam, yogasans, living responsibly, not having stress, not having bitterness, not consuming things which are not good for our body, which can increase our longevity. But finally, that race that we are having with disease, the animals will catch us and beat us. That is how the body shuts down finally. It's important to increase the longevity so that we can spend more time in devotion and seva with that mindset, it is important to continue to do that. And we'll talk about another concept that Swamiji gave over the weekend. I love that concept, how we can improve our longevity. You will love that concept. Intuitively, you will say, yes, it makes sense. And I'll tell you some examples around that as well. But this is more around, okay, let's improve our longevity so that we can serve God, not that so that we can take another few trips to Mars and Hawaii and wherever. Not for our enjoyment, but for the sake of some big purpose. So then finally, diseases will catch us as well. Okay, so these animals are like those diseases. Then the next one is, in this particular situation, this guy is there hanging upside down, snake is waiting. Snake is the final destination. It's just a matter of time before snake will catch us. There's a saying, right, in English, as sure as death. And they say there are only two things which are certain in life. One is taxes and second is death. Okay, so it's just a matter of time before snake will catch us. And then in order to accelerate our journey, what is happening? This right black and white mouse, they are nibbling. They are day and night. They are like day and night pushing us towards our final destination. And in all of this, these bees are like, wasps are like those desires that we are talking about, born out of lust, which is tormenting us, which Samji claimed he's having a time of his life. Okay. Now he's having a time of his life in the middle of all of this situation and enjoying that honey. And honey is that little bit of drop that we get, of course. It is called thrill. Thrill we get, right? That is why Maya keeps on engaging us throughout our life and across lifetimes. It is thrill. It, like in English, there's a say, it thrills, speed thrills but kills. In this case, the gratification of sensual desires thrills but never fulfills. Okay? It may give you thrill, but it will never give you fulfillment. So it will give you thrillment but not fulfillment. Okay, or thrill, never fulfill, whatever. So these wasps, they represent those innumerable desires that arise in our mind. I need this, I want this, I have it, and all that will continue. They'll agitate you. Agitation, the second symptom of it is agitation it will cause, because you create an itch for yourself. And for you to come back to the normal position, now you need to remove that. And it will cause you pain and distress. Okay, so this is basically the analogy that talks about, and that is how powerful these desires are. Honey represents the sensual enjoyment we experience in the world, which crowds the discrimination of the intellect. Now, in this case, the clouding of the intellect that we were talking about is caused by this honey. You know, it's giving you, okay, I need more of it. I need more of it. It's giving you a bit of a thrill. So this is the whole concept. Now, depending upon how much excitement you are feeling because of this honey is driven by whether you are in that embryonic stage, whether you are in that smoke, fire stage, or that dust mirror stage. That intensity would vary for different people. But this is the phenomena that is unfolding of sensual desires that we keep falling for lifetime after lifetime. All right. Now I will stop because I've been talking a lot. Posing a question, or let's take some questions or announcements. Is it a battle between the equals? You know, every time our mind is given, senses are given, sense objects are given. So it's just like a rookies bowling to Virat Kohli, or, you know, there's a matchup between a queen and a pawn, or a lion versus mouse kind of a battle. Are we fighting a hopeless battle here, basically? But let's get the discussion. But any questions so far? And let's spend a little bit of time on that, on what we have discussed. We covered a lot. I hope it made sense.
Can I make the announcements?
Sure, and then we'll get back to it.
Okay, so first one is about Earth Day, Sustainability Day celebrations. And in this, we will have Swamiji also joining us. There will be a community park cleanup at in Dallas, Allen, basically, on April 22nd. So whoever is here, please participate in this. I have shared the link. I'm sharing it again.
Please come over, join my team. Okay, I'm a forced captain of one of the teams, and I've been told if we come across any skulls and stuff like that, we are not supposed to carry out any forensics there, but we will not get that. Okay, we will get some plastic bags and we will help the cause of Earth. So please join my team. I'm making a pitch for you regardless. Please come in the morning. We'll have a good time and get to meet Swamiji. And if our luck is good, he might be in our team as well. okay, for a little while.
All pitching for your team, Nitinji. This is not fair.
Oh, Sandhya is also captain, sorry. Okay, we both are captain, you have an option now.
Okay. Live
Monica
stream.
ji, you can spin a coin, okay? That's perfectly okay. No dharam sankat for you.
So Deyasin is asking live stream. So for the cleanup part, I don't think so. But for the sustainability fair, there might be, the details will be out soon. But in any case, I guess people can register for virtual participation if there's a possibility. And the
Yes.
second, yeah, and the second announcement is about, like, now you know that Swamiji is here in United States and his US tours have started. So all the details are there in the link that I have posted. So please make sure to check this out and be aware of the programs that are happening in your city or state, and do not miss out on the opportunity to meet him. You will, yeah, love it. Okay, these are the two announcements, and feedback tracker also I've posted it a couple of times. I'll post it again. So please fill that out. Nitinji will look at it and he will get back to you.
And by the way, feedback tracker is good. And we are looking at moving our Friday class to Sunday evening. That will be Monday morning for you. So it becomes Monday to Friday. And so
For
I hope
people in India.
it works out better for most, because Fridays people generally want to take it easy, and it will be a Monday to Friday schedule at India. I hope that works okay. Anyway, we are trying to get into a routine right on Sunday evening. So look out for that. I think mostly it's going to be from May 6th. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that. And people who have planned a lot of parties and potlucks on Fridays, now they can breathe easy. You'll have time on Fridays.
So we will have our quiz also on Sunday.
Yeah, we'll plan it some way, but yeah, we'll get into a routine of Sunday to Thursday, basically US time, and then Monday to Friday on India time.
Yes. Yeah, all announcements done. I will
We have
take
time for that. May 6th is when we are planning to implement it, but I'll keep reminding you so that you don't forget.
Awesome. Thank you.
Please fill out the feedback tracker. If you have any comments, reservations around it, do let me know. Yes, Monica ji, I had a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Nidhi, I wanted to discuss on the queen versus pawn and the rookie versus police, if it's time.
Sure. Yeah. Any questions
Okay.
related
So,
to this? Post it here. Your voice is breaking in between.
Just wanted to start.
Yeah, go ahead. Your voice was breaking. Please go ahead.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I was so basically, Nitinji, I think not in everybody's situation it's a queen versus pawn, but then I was also thinking that someone born in a country like Syria or Somalia, where they don't have access to this knowledge at all since birth, and even if they grow old, how about them? I mean, they also got human birth to attain divine, but if they don't have access to this knowledge, so how will they ever find out?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's where I think maybe I'll do a session on Maslow hierarchy. When your basic needs are taken care of, then you think about spirituality, right? So it works that way. Having said that, that is also not whimsical, right? If somebody is born somewhere, it is dictated by something, some kind of an algorithm there, right? And in Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 7, Lord Krishna says that if you make spirituality, you start progressing on this path, I will ensure, or I will give you conducive circumstances, situations, and places so that you can continue this journey further. So that is also part of our doing only. That is why we got to be careful around how we are spending our time as humans. We don't know which algorithm would come into picture, because I don't have a entitlement to be born as a Hindu or an Indian or a particular religion or a particular family or a particular situation or a condition. And if I fritter away, I don't know which prarabdha would hit me and take me to some other place. I don't know. Maybe we've been part of that. But I get your point. That is definitely a initial handicap for somebody to even know about spirituality. But God has a plan for everyone. Maybe it will initiate one spiritual spark somewhere, some kind of a dispassion, detachment. One thing will lead to another, and by the time one of the lifetimes, they also have those situations and circumstances where they can take their journey further. So we don't know. God has a plan for everyone. The thing we need to, yeah.
So could also it be a possibility where they have been given human birth just for because of their prarabdha?
Possible. See, if we fritter away, think of it, people who hoard everything in life, right? Then in order for them to be basically learn the lessons that they need to do, they would be given lives where they would have to learn what it means when you don't have something, right? So we don't know what kind of algorithm. So that's why we need to, once we get the spiritual understanding, we need to live life responsibly so that we are future proofing our interest as well.
Right.
That's why I say we are future proofing, and tomorrow we may not have the same situation, circumstances, inspiration, or even a conducive environment. We cannot take it for granted. So God gives you, it's like hitting a scholarship, and then He sees what we do with that, and accordingly, other things can happen. So that's why it's you think about it, spirituality beyond a point becomes a very serious business, because it's about your own journey. You know, you could be thrown into any. You are pretty much on your own in this journey, right? Other than your guru and God, and maybe hopefully satsangis, there's absolutely nobody, right, in that journey. And we think we continue to play this gargar rail and all that stuff that we form. It's treacherous if you're just wasting this opportunity, you know, just like that. We don't know where we would end up basically in our next lives.
And also, Nitinj, if you have a formula or one-liners or whatever to make people understand, just to ignite that spark in them, right? Because like how you explained it so well, of not wasting this life. Not many people around us, our dear ones also, they don't get the point, you know, sometimes, even if you, I don't know how to explain. Yes.
Yeah, we all are perfectly situated where we need to be, and we all learn at our own pace. So that is how it goes. See, if somebody would change by listening to somebody, one discourse from Swamiji would have changed our life forever. It doesn't happen so easily. So we all learn at our own pace.
There is also a question in the chat by Falguni ji. It was mentioned that a blade of grass, trees have a soul. Soul and consciousness are different? Question mark.
Consciousness is a symptom of the soul. Like chandan, you apply chandan on your forehead, it will cool the body. Similarly, when soul is there, it will permeate the consciousness all over the body. So consciousness is a symptom of the soul. Both are not, I mean, there's technical difference between those. When soul departs, sentience, the consciousness is gone from the body. The body is still lying there, right? So when people say that somebody has left, what has left? The body is still there. Who are you grieving for? Are you grieving for the body? If you're grieving for the body, body is still there. Are you grieving for the soul? If you're grieving for the soul, soul has moved on. So the point of grieving is taken off the equation if you truly understand this concept. So symptom of soul, consciousness is a symptom of the soul and not the same as soul. Swamiji has answered the question very clearly. Yeah.
And I think the question is coming from the perspective of trees, maybe because we can't perceive their consciousness. That doesn't mean that doesn't exist, right?
True.
So,
in fact, when a gardener comes to the garden, the flowers, they start, you know, sowing as well. It is said that their consciousness, they can pick up those vibes. They can pick up, but then it's an existence. It's a different kind of an existence, right? Trees also have consciousness. They said you start abusing water or plants, they will, you know, frown. You can carry out that experiment, and even if you write a word called love, positivity, they will start blossoming. So they actually what do you call, are very receptive to the emotions around them. There are experiments carried out. Check it out. I think there was a Japanese scientist who carried out this experiment. Even water crystals, for that matter, when you say om om or something like that, they crystallize and in one direction. And so these all things, they respond to vibrations, and so do we as human minds. Yeah.
okay, I'll take up Purvi's question.
Yes, Sudhu.
Radhe Radhe. Actually, I wanted to say something about that mouse and lion thing. So I think I kind of experienced it. Like if we want to develop something, we want to surrender or we want to develop humbleness, and then we feel like a mouse. We are not able to do it in front of the lion. But then I realized that it was kind of a fearful situation for me. But then I realized that what we have to do is we have to put in efforts. And when we put in efforts, we give a hint to God and Guru that we really want it. And when we really want it, they just give it to us. So we are not like a mouse. We are even the father of the lion because our Guru is with us. So
Very true. Beautiful, Urvi. We have to think ourselves as a mouse, humbler than a blade of grass. And then when God's grace intervene, nothing is insurmountable, right? That is the bhajan Swamiji also sang this Sunday. Niradhar Adhar Meri Radhe. So we have to approach Radharani and God with our disqualifications, not with our qualifications. This is how good I am, this is what I am. When we approach God with humility, with our disqualification that I am nothing, right? I just need, then he starts taking control. When we go with a lot of pride or that I'm so and so or I have this, then it doesn't intervene, doesn't work that way. Because one of the definitions of God himself is Deen Bandhu. But the problem is we don't consider ourselves Deen. So, and other thing is Patit Pavan. If we consider ourselves as fallen, he has to purify us, but we don't even consider ourselves as Patit. And third is Bhaktavatsal. Bhakt, anyway, it takes a lot of eligibility to become a good Bhakt. So if we consider ourselves as Deen or Patit, it's a faster way to get God because he has to intervene then, right? So, but great point, Urvi. Thank you for sharing that.
There's one more question in the chat. If Brahman is universal energy, why do we meditate on Krishna's Leela and not the energy form?
Beautiful question. So why don't we have a complete session on this? Because it's not a quick question. God and his manifestations. Okay, there are three manifestations of God, which is Brahman, all permeating, Paramatma, which is localized, who's permeated us, our soul, who's taking notes of our karma, and the Bhagwan aspect of it where he manifests. Okay. And the real knowledge and wisdom is to take all the three attributes of God simultaneously. If Ramesh is here, Ramesh cannot be present everywhere, right? But God, if he's here in front of you, he can permeate the entire universe, be seated inside you, and could be taking an avatar at multiple places as well. Okay, we'll talk about this concept in much more detail. Maybe I'll take a full week-long session on this. It's not a 2-minute conversation. And I don't want to trivialize it by giving you a quick answer because it's a very foundational, profound discussion we can have on this topic. On difference between Bhagwan, Brahman, and Paramatma. Okay, this is a very fundamental concept and Maharajji has explained it beautifully. Swamiji has his commentary as well. So we can take a week-long session and go really deep into this topic. And this will also shed light into some of the commonly not properly understood concepts around Nirakar aspect of God, Sakar aspect of God. Is there a difference? Deity worship and pretty much everything that you can think about. So maybe 1 week-long session I can plan for that.
Yeah, you just got the response from this person that thank you, look forward to it.
Okay, so look out for that. Maybe in a couple of weeks, we can plan for that session because it's going to be an interesting session. Fundamentally, everything will get sorted out, okay? This whole confusion around Nirakar, Sakar, God is this, God is that, can God be this? We'll talk about it very logically in a very structured manner with scriptural references, of course, and we'll tackle this topic.
Awesome. Sunil Pathakji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Sunilji.
Radhe Radhe. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So I didn't have anything, but Monica ji asked like a question there. So I just wanted to do something on that, guys. That is also like one question when I had like a long time ago, I had that question. Sometimes that will come in my mind. And there is like a 3-volume of the book called Prasnottari, where I think where teachers and the satsangis have asked question to Sri Maharaji and he has replied. And all those are like documented in those 3 volumes of books. And what Monica ji asked the first question, so someone had asked that to Sri Maharaji. Okay, what about those people, you know, who have a human birth, but they just live the material life and they die, they don't get to meet the guru, experience the spiritual life and all that. So what Sri Maharaji has replied there, I don't remember exactly word for word, but I had studied that. So from what I can remember, he told like, so there was like a prarabdha. So with their karma fall, they got the human body, and their whole prarabdha was to do something or enjoy the material life, enjoy, suffer, as just float along the material life and then die. So that was it. And so, and also like second thing, I think Monikaji also pointed out, like, okay, we tell someone, but it's still like, we don't, so say, for example, when we people get into satsang, we realize the importance of it to whatever degree. We want others also to follow it. We also, want others like, to, in a way, make them understand, okay, the importance of this path, and also want them join this, but doesn't happen, right? That doesn't happen to all. So one point, so this is again like in the very first or very old version of Premras Siddhanta, where Maharaji had written, but it's not the present edition, it's a very old one. So the old edition is quite different from the present edition of Premras Siddhanta. So there, Sri Maharaji had written, like what he had written, like common people who join into satsang, they just futilely try to, like convince everyone, hey, you should join this and that. And what he had written was, like when the right time comes for any person to join, it's going to happen. The things will get arranged and they will join that. But before that, it will be very difficult for them to join. So that's something he had written. And I think like the first part I had like I did tell it. So this is in like old version of Premras Siddhanta. The first thing that I told Sri Maharaji's answer to what Monikaji had asked as her first question, that's in the Prasnottari. It's I think volume 3. There are like 3 volumes. I had brought all 3. I don't have it right now physically, but yeah, those 3 volumes, that question is somewhere. I don't know exactly which volume, but if I remember, it must be the 3rd volume of Prasnottari. That exact same question is there. At the same time, Sri Maharaji has also, like answered, I think in a couple of places, like, okay, what if, okay, prarabdha is not there, a big prarabdha of, meeting the saint and all that. What if that person happens to meet us and like, can that person progress spiritually or not? So again, on that he has answered, like, okay, if he happens to meet, because with the human life, you also do kriyaman karma. So although it's not in prarabdha, but with the kriyaman karma, he's walking somewhere, he's wandering in some places, and he stumbles upon to a spiritual master. So at that point, if his receptivity is sattvic and all that, and if he listens carefully, yeah, then he can go on. He can join that path. He can march forward. And also like for those who have like big strong prarabdha, okay, like they will get the guru when the time comes. Now, so their previous fall, like their previous karmas fall, they got by getting environment, meeting a guru at the right time, understanding the tattva, following him. Now from there on, whatever they earn, that will be their like kriyaman karma. Now they have to like move forward with the present devotional practices. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sunilji, for providing the references from Prashnotri and Premras Siddhant. Thank you so much for that. Wonderful. Yeah, I also tried to get my responses from that of Swamiji's lectures, bringing it to basically to the fold here in our sessions as well. But thank you for the reiterating some of those references around it. Yes, Suvarnaji, you had a question?
Yes, Swarnaji. Radhe Radhe.
Yeah. Radhe Radhe, Radhe Radhe Nitinji, Radhe Radhe to everyone. I just wanted to add that only human life is considered as karma yogi or prarabdha karma, which we can do as a free will. Rest all the creatures in their lifetimes, they are just karma bhogi. They just have to tolerate and take the karma as given. So we are only human lives are the source of negativity if we think negative. Rest all the sun, moon, soil, plants, everybody, they take our negativity and they are the source of positivity. And because if you do crystal healing, in crystal healing, they take our negativity, and when you want to re-energize any crystal, you put it under moonlight or sunlight or bury it under the soil, so it re-energizes, or under running tap water, and the positivity again comes back. So our soul is on a trajectory where the soul starts off from a bacteria as a unicellular, and then through subsequent lifetimes, it keeps on going forward till it attains a human life. And depending on the karma, we can either ascend forward or we can go back to any of the organisms' birth. This is very well depicted in the book called Many Lives, Many Masters by Dr. Brian Weiss.
Dr. Brian
And
Weiss.
as Monica ji had said, that when we take a birth in a country which is full of destruction and war prevailed, so there also we have something to learn. And probably if you take example of yourself, we must have taken multiple births in our past times. We don't know which country we would have taken birth, which religion, but that's how we have come forward and we have grown. So from a bacteria till a Guruji, we have multiple lives. So, and probably till moksha, if you say. So forward also we can, take birth in any country, any religion. That's also one of the learning depending on our sanchit karma and praram karma.
Beautiful.
That is why human life is considered one of the best lives. So use your time essentially and judiciously.
Thank you, Suvarnaji. You summed it up really well. Only modification I would do to what you said was, we will take you beyond moksha, okay? So keep attending the sessions and you will not talk about moksha anymore. You'll talk about Premanand at that point. We will take you beyond moksha, okay? Moksha will chase you and you will say, no, I reject you. All right. So yes, I think the human life is the one, I feel like Suvarnaji beautifully said, every creature, every creation in this universe is made to serve others. And they are playing their role to perfection. Right from an earthworm, right, which basically, even after its own life, it adds to the fertility of the soil, all the way up to vultures or anything that you see is actually contributing towards nature only. Plants also take all the emissions and give back fresh air and everything. It's humans who think of themselves as establishing right at the top of this ecosystem that everything is here to serve us, and that is where this whole process starts getting messed up. So it's in sacrifice that one gets, it's in giving away one gets. That is the whole principle of this creation. Amaji told a beautiful story. There was this principle is also illustrated, I think, in Quran Sharif as well, where Ibrahim, he was asked by God to, when he has a son, to leave him in a village and in a desert rather, mother and his wife and his son in a desert. And he just got that order from God and he left them there. Of course, God is taking care of everyone, right? And then when he grew up, he said, bring your son and offer it to me. He said, what kind of a commandment is it? And he actually brought his son and he put him on the guillotine because God had asked for it. And when he covered his head, and when the sword was about to get on him, you know what? Instead of his head, a bakara's head was there found. Basically, God has switched his son. And from that, Idul Zuha started. So basically, it was a spirit of sacrifice. And then this tradition became that start cutting bakaras every Idul. So that's not the idea. It was the spirit of sacrifice and giving that you get. He explained the quick tradition around that. The point here is when we give, we get things back. It's not by holding and taking it for ourselves. And he told a very beautiful story where, a Guruji tells people in a group of people that, let's do an activity where you blow up your balloon. Everybody blowed up their balloon and they said, write your names on it. And then stack it up in a room. And then everybody stacked it up in a room and he said, go and get your balloon. And when they started getting their balloons, everything started bursting and they were nudging around and pushing around and this and that, and pandemonium broke. Then he said, I'll tell you, it would have been a very simple exercise and each one of you would have brought a balloon, the one that you got. And when the name was called, you could have simply handed it over to somebody. So it's in giving you would have gotten. So this is how the universe is designed. And when as humans we are born, If you think of just taking for everything and without giving back, then it's an opportunity lost. And then we may be turned into some other species or some other country, and we'll have to learn the lessons the hard way, right? Like Suvarnaji said, quite possible we are born into those country, or we may get reborn, we don't know. But in every existence, there is some kind of a lesson God has for us, right? So it's a hand-picked course for each one of us, custom-made course for each one of us based on the lessons that are needed for us in that particular lifetime. Thank you. Great discussion, Ajitji. You wanted to add something, and then we can wrap up our session. I know we are a little over today already.
There is also a question from Kirti Ji, a new participant from Austin. If I
Yes.
can.
Welcome to our session. What's the name?
Kirti Ji.
Radhe Radhe Kirti Ji. Good to hear from you.
Yes, her question is, if our past life sanskars influence our mind, how can we still control our mind?
It's a good question. I think we've spoken about this concept as well. So yes, for most part, we are in autopilot mode. But then there is something called free will that God has given us. Through that free will, we can dictate our kriyaman karma, the karma that we do right now. So your mind might be telling you based on your past tendencies, but with knowledge, you can conquer it. So if you have tendencies, tamasic tendencies from past life, it might tell you that, hey, keep sleeping, take it easy, keep on procrastinating. But when you come in contact with spiritual knowledge, with a guru or good association with knowledge, you say, no, it is an opportunity. It is a golden opportunity. My mind is telling me this, but my scriptures also tell us my mind is the biggest enemy. So I need to conquer my natural tendencies so that my future prarabdha becomes better, or so that I can get closer to the goal of my life. So that free will aspect is something which enables you to even conquer or transcend your natural settings from past sanskars.
Awesome.
We are not enslaved completely. We have the free will. Ajit ji wanted to add something.
Yeah. Radhe Radhe Ajit Ji.
Radhe
Ajit
Radhe ji.
Ajit Ji, can you hear us?
You can hear us or not, but we can definitely not hear you, Ajit ji. Okay. You may have to fix your audio.
Ajit Ji, we just, okay.
All right. So do we have anybody for, I think we are way over today. So
Actually, there's a follow-up question from Kirti Ji,
sure.
if I can. Thanks. Is it possible to keep mind under control at all times for any human?
There's a process. It's the biggest challenge, right? We all are struggling with that. There's a process, of course. So, Kirti, why don't you fill out the feedback tracker? Let's have some more offline conversation. There's a process, of course. We have spoken about, see, spirituality is all about making our mind our friend. And Swamiji has written tons and tons of literature on this. Maharajji has given so much of commentary on this. So we can talk about that. There's a process. Of course, it's a process. It's not a unit step function where we will pop in a pill and wake up and say mind is under control. So there's a practice that has to be followed. Starting with the sadhana that we are doing, the satsang we are doing, the seva that we do. And over time, your mind will start, the quality of your mind as it starts improving, the more it starts becoming a friend of yours. And then finally, the quality of your mind would be such that it is not capable of generating any negative thoughts or telling you something which is not good for you. It is an advanced stage, but there is a process that needs to be followed. And that process is purifying yourself. And how do you purify yourself? By introducing 3 S's in your life. What are those 3 S's? Sadhana, daily practice of sadhana, satsang that you are doing right now, and seva. Get involved in some kind of a seva, because now you are doing it for a higher purpose, not for something that you are getting paid for. When you do these practices and you continue to do that, and you are in association with a realized saint, take guidance from them and continue on this path, soon you will realize the quality of your mind has started improving, and your control over your mind is much better than it used to be, and it will keep on getting better with time. But if you want to talk more, certainly I'm happy to have an offline conversation with you. At least theoretically, we can understand. Practically, it's all our journey. How fast we want to progress is again in our hands, based on the appetite and intensity that we have for this. Ajitji, is your audio fixed now?
Yeah, Ajit ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, huh.
Radhe Chichi.
Actually, whatever you have told, tons of knowledge. And Monica ji has asked one question. In response to her question, I will say one liner that only the darshan of Swamiji happened to such country and people. Only one visit will be sufficient for imparting this knowledge to those people who do not have any access to this knowledge. So this is the one liner I wanted to convey.
Yes.
And Monica ji has asked a very good question out of all this knowledge and story and all this. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Monica ji. And you did the, you actually summed it up how we started this session. Simplification is the ultimate sophistication. Yes, meet Swamiji, all your questions will get answered in due course of time. Okay. That is how it works when you come in contact with somebody who has 40 years of tapasya and sadhana with him. So it's like coming in contact with a magnet. You automatically start imbibing some of those things. And if you sufficiently keep on exposing yourself to his teachings and associating with him, of course, miracles would happen. Miracles can happen. He can transform your thought process, your knowledge, and the way you look at things. That is the power of tapasya, austerity he carries. But you need to be willing to do that. If you're approaching it for your own selfish things and not chota mota things, then you'll be stuck there. It's like you visited a gold mine and you came back with nickels only. You go there and you'll experience it for yourself. Wonderful session, great discussion. I'll leave you now with some food for thought around this concept, and tomorrow we will continue on this discussion. We have tomorrow's session will continue on this discussion. Some more interesting things that we will discuss tomorrow as well. So Ajit, you wanted to sing something?
Yes,
Yeah.
Ajit ji. Oh, you want to
One
Okay.
more thought that this day and night, the rats, actually that is a symbol of a clock. Clock gives the sound tick, 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 tick. And our age is going kit, kit, kit. Means cut, cut, cut. Our age is getting reduced. And that goes on reverse way. Tick, 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 kit, kit, kit.
Yeah, thank you, Ajit.
Radhe,
As
Radhe.
rats were not enough, now you have said tick tick also. So rats at least we can't see every day now. Clock is always there in front of us now.
Yes.
We're gonna have a good night's sleep now, thinking about tick tick tick. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Vanna
Okay.
ji also says, thank you, team DWFBG. From
Who's-
Vanna ji.
Who's saying? Sumanta ji?
Vandana ji, Vandana ji.
Oh, Vandana ji. Thank you, Vandana ji, for thanking our team. Okay, so we'll continue on our fascinating discussion tomorrow as well. So Radhe Radhe from my side. Good night, good day. And we will continue on this wonderful journey that we are on tomorrow as well. So Radhe Radhe, good night, good day.
Yes, thank you so much for your engaging participation. See you all tomorrow. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.